Hi everyone, my name is Mason, and this is going to be my review of the body rituals of the Nacirema and the current worldview and culture that I'm going to be connecting with the world. So, my review of the body rituals of the Nacirema is that it was a very well written article by Horace Minor, who is a anthropologist of the University of Michigan, and he depicts to us on how we were a growing country. Not even at that point, we were a growing people to grow into a country that has our own specific culture. This would show on how we would relate to higher powers, which is shown now through our government, and how we would also relate to the people with education to guide us and give us examples of what we needed to do in our daily life. So, my worldview connection with the world is going to be about gun culture. Our gun culture here in America is very deeply rooted in our daily lives. We may not think about it, but we have police officers that have their service firearms with them at all times. We see hunters going and hunting for different animals and providing food for their family. Or we see them at recreational events like the Olympics or shooting events. This can also be shown at public ranges and doing recreational activities, especially here in Arizona with an event that brings in a lot of people and they shoot at the side of a mountain to have fun and enjoy time with other people. Another thing about it is that our worldview culture compared to different countries is completely different. I'm going to take for example Switzerland. So in the article that I chose by Kara Fox is how U.S. gun culture stacks up with the world, and it says in the article here that per 120 guns, it's owned by 100 people in the U.S. So 100 people in a population group will own 120 firearms. But compared to places like Switzerland, it's usually past military members and hunters that own these kinds of firearms. So in Switzerland, you have to do a 2 year service to your nation's military, and then once you are done, you get the option to either keep your firearm or you can send it back to the army and say, I want you guys to keep this. I don't want it. But in Switzerland, you have to go to specific ranges, you have to get specific ammo, and you have to make sure you have specific qualification training yearly to keep this gun. And you also have to have background checks and mental checks to make sure that you're doing all right and that everything's going to be fine. Where in the US, it differs. Different states have different laws. And compared to the world doesn't have different section states. We're unique in the fact that each state has different laws. Take, for example, Hawaii. Hawaii, you can own a firearm, but at the same time, you can't have certain firearms. Whereas Arizona, you can go to the store and buy ammunition without an ID. And then you can also get a long gun at the age of 18. This includes rifles and shotguns, where in California, you have to be 21. And it shows from the World Point Standard that our country is very relaxed on this idea. And take Japan, for example. Japan, you have to have a very specific purpose, and you have to have very strict laws to keep this firearm in your house. The police have to have a record, a little written record, showing how much ammo you have and how much ammo you've used. If one thing is out of place, you could go to jail for probably the rest of your life. That's how it works in Japan. But in the US, it's a private part of your life. And why is our laws beneficial? You may be asking. Well, our laws are beneficial because, for starters, it defends our country. Our country is defended by the military but we are also the second source of defense if we get invaded. That's why you see a lot of countries being hesitant about us or about invading us because we have the ability to fight back. This was shown by Admiral Yamato, who was a Japanese admiral back in World War II, and he said, "Behind every single blade of grass is an American with a gun." That shows that Japan wasn't going to be able to invade the US. Second, it gives us the ability to have fun and use recreational use, but also have a very purposeful use for quality control of our landscapes. And you may be thinking, what does that mean? That means that we can control the population of animals that damage or help our surrounding environment. This can be shown in the Everglades. A lot of snakes, especially anacondas, were very destructive of the livestock or of the livelihood of the animals there. They would take out a whole bunch of animals and they were a pest. So we sent hunters in to get them for a specific price. They'd hunt them, they'd bring them back, they'd get money for it. And it helps control our environments around us. And the third point I want to bring up on why it's beneficial, it helps keep our government in check. This was shown back in 1881 or 1861 with the Civil War, on how the Confederacy broke away from our still surviving government to focus on slavery and use it as their freedom. This was shown to be very problematic because you can't have two governments in one nation. So that's why our civilians were armed and they were willing to take up the liberties of freedom and defend them for a group of people that didn't have them. Even though it took a while to get full freedoms for black people, it wasn't that was the start of the revolution for them. So that is my world connection about gun culture to the rest of the world and how it's beneficial, and also my review of the body rituals of the Nacirema. So thank you for listening to me, and I'm glad to portray my point with you guys. Thank you.